I'm moderating a session with 6 global leaders in the space of how we create empowering and creative leadership. My name is Sherwyn Singh. I'm originally South African, living in the UK. I'm in Northern England in the Lake District, which is very beautiful at the moment. I'm absolutely passionate about this topic, and I'll be moderating the session, and I'll introduce each of the people to you and switch to them. I'll do this in alphabetical order. So Agita, you go first, please. If you could just take a minute to tell us a little bit about you, that would be great.
Thank you so much, Sherwyn, and good morning from England. Good afternoon, probably in Asia, in Malaysia, and Indonesia. I'm originally from Indonesia myself as well, and currently living in Liverpool, in the UK. It's been a pleasure, a really great pleasure to be here today. I was attending the session actually 8 a.m. in the morning in the UK. So now I have another sessions today. It's been really amazing to see a different perspective from different country, from different speakers as well. So my background is coming from a law background. I'm currently developing, in my part-time, I'm currently developing my own thing. It's called Bullied. It's coming very personal experience as a sexual harassment survivor. So Bullied basically focusing on combining the psychology and law principles in order to help people and creating and distributing equal access to everyone in order to getting the mental health support and legal guidance.
Fantastic, Agita. Thank you for that. Looking forward to your contributions. Elaine, I think if I've got my alphabet right, I think you go next. Elaine Potgieter.
Yes, I'm Elarie. I'm also South African. No problem. I'm also originally South African, and I've been working in transformation of large-scale systems, especially in the education field, for the past 20 years. But I also do leadership development across 7 countries. I've worked in many different projects, and I'm passionate about emotionally intelligent leadership and innovative practices. So yeah, I'm really happy to be here, and it's lovely to meet all of you.
Fantastic, Elarie. Thank you. And where are you dialing in from right now, Elarie?
I'm in Kuala Lumpur at the moment. Yeah, that's where my business is. Yes.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Who have I got next? I think Faizal. I think I've got you next.
Yep. Hi, I'm Faizal. I'm coming from Singapore. So I have a background in project management, and I've been in the leadership role in the corporate for the last 10.5 years. Until about a year ago, I decided to venture out on my own after completing my MBA in entrepreneurship. So what I'm doing currently is trying to help entrepreneurs as a mentoring matching platform, basically from South Africa with one of my co-partners. And at the same time, also doing my own startup venture with an accelerator program in Berlin. So I'm happy to be here with the 6 of wonderful people here and to share my knowledge on leadership and how to empower creative leadership with my diverse background and where I've been travel and work at.
So fantastic. Thank you, Faizal. Thank you. Faridah, we've got you next, Faridah.
Hey everyone, this is Faridah. I'm coming to you from Kuala Lumpur. It's about 7:15 right now p.m. So I come to you from a very communication background. I've done the whole round in communication, from journalism to PR to publishing and working on marketing and nation branding campaigns. But in the last 10 years or so, I've been a trainer and a coach, and I've worked with people from over 50 countries in almost every continent. I come to this panel discussion with a perspective that when I started my career in the late 1980s, there was really no leadership programs for anyone. Training and coaching basically did not exist at that time. So I bring that perspective, which I'll be sharing throughout the discussion. But what I do today is I am a conscious communication coach. And what does that mean? That it simply means that I take people from compulsive communication, which is what people do all the time. People talk and they're compulsive, to get them to realize and then to master, to speak more consciously, because the language that they use when they communicate with people emits a lot of information about who they are and what they believe and what their values are. So I've been doing that for the last about 10 years. And in the last couple of years, I've been focusing a lot of that on women, and I've got a signature program called the Lost in Translation, the language of leadership for women.
Fantastic. Thank you, Faridah. Pleasure to have you with us. If I got my alphabet right, I think Dr. Jasmine Begum, I think we've got you next.
Hi, thank you, Sherwyn. Thank you to the organizer for having me here today. My name is Jasmine Begum. I am dialing in also like Faridah and Elarie from Kuala Lumpur in the heart of the city near New Central, actually sitting in my office. I head the legal and government affairs team for Microsoft in ASEAN. The perspective that I hope to share today is on leadership, not only being creative, but also empathetic, and something I'm very passionate about. And I hope to share how leadership is not a role that you hold, but what you also empower others, and every one of us can be leaders. And with that, thank you, Sherwyn. Over back to you.
Fantastic. Excellent. Lovely to have you with us. And the last person on our panel, Dr. Ruby Bakshi Khurdi. Hi, Ruby. You're in Switzerland,
Hi,
is that right?
Yes, Sherwyn. I'm
Fantastic.
in Switzerland, originally from India, but now based in Switzerland for last 20 years now. So I'm really looking forward to talk to you all. I'm a core educationist. I'm teaching the master's, bachelor's, and doctorate programs here in Switzerland in hospitality and business. But my passion is, just as Elarie said, towards emotional intelligence. Since I gave my TEDx talk been 2 years, I'm getting lots and lots of opportunities to express and explore in the field of communication. And I have been doing that really voraciously for emotional intelligence and women empowerment. I'm very, very passionate about these two areas and themes. So wherever I get an opportunity, I try to, create an impact with these two terms, which is a must in today's world. Like with the pandemic, I think we all have to use a bit of emotional intelligence, which we'll be covering through our presentation today. Thank you.
Fantastic. Pleasure to have you with us. So, folk, if you're watching this, you've got a bit of an idea, a little bit more about the individuals involved in the panels. You'll be able to see all of their bios somewhere on the site. We really wanted to keep this alive, and we've kind of got a couple of sessions that I want to go into. And I guess what we want to do first is just do some definitions, so get diverse thinking into the definition around creative, empowering leadership, and I could ask everybody the same questions because we've all got such a lot of experience, but let me just reach out to a couple of people. Faizal, if I go to you, and if I go perhaps to you, Ruby and Faridah, and if I ask you guys particularly about what you've seen in international settings, please, any one of the three of you, just go first with what have you seen as best practice? What have you seen as things that don't work well, or any guidance on what those three words mean as they come together in international settings?
So shall I go first?
Please go ahead, Faridah.
Okay, so when you're talking about creative leadership, so I thought about this title quite a lot as I was prepping for this session.
Yeah.
And to me, there is a bit of a it's the word creative is an interesting one, because for me, human beings are creative by nature. It's in our DNA. The issue about leadership, when you look at people from different parts of the world, different genders, different age groups, I don't think it's rocket science, honestly. It is the problem that people have with leadership is not that people don't care, but a lot of times, in my experience over the last couple of years, is that it's the structures within the organizations that hold people back from being creative about the way that they lead. Because a lot of the big companies, the multinationals, generally have structures and standards and requirements by which people have to manage their teams, how KPIs have to be met. So for me, when I've spoken to all these people across genders and even across geographies, I find that people generally are pretty self-sufficient. People are creative. What corporate life tends to do is it tends to take away that creativity from people. And then after a while, what happens is people then start just following the rules because it's just easier to do it that way. That's been my experience. I mean, not completely, but this is the problem or sort of the rub that I see when I do these communication programs.
Love it. Wow. So we're getting right to the nub of the matter. I love that. Faizal, Ruby, anything else to add from your side?
Yeah, I think from educationist point of view, like as a teacher, I try to get in towards a more creative form of how a teacher should be conducting the classes. Because, coming from India, we were so used to being teacher as like the demigod. So whatever the teacher would say, we would just follow. But here, I try to use creative leadership in my style of teaching. It's not just limited to the four walls of the classroom, but we try to go out sometimes. Like that's my way of exhibiting it. We sometimes try to go out instead of discussing a regular case study. What we do is we do the role play. So the characters in this case study become the actual people who are enacting those roles. What would you do in that kind of scenario? So this is something like, as you just mentioned, that we all are creative human beings, but because of our circumstances or because of whichever part of the organization we are in, whether it's corporate, hospitality, or finance sector, any place, it tries to go away. So the role of leader should be how you can get your style, how you can get your innovativeness, so that we add some flavor to what is happening. So when I do these kind of things, it adds to the flavor. Students like it. I try to, in my school, I'm known as the innovative academician because I introduce gamification in my classes. I teach HR, which is kind of very boring, right? A lot of theories. So when you introduce game-like situations, it becomes more fun and more interesting. So that's my way of exhibiting that when you have something different, something innovative, people appreciate it. They may not like it instantly because, we have the habit of getting used to what is happening in the rooms or what is happening in the way the corporate runs. But once it starts, picking up, people appreciate it because it's something different, and then they start appreciating as well.
Fantastic, love it. So there's a lot about keeping it real. There's a lot about the walking out and sensing it with your senses rather than doing a third person case study and some of the innovative things you use when you're teaching it. Fantastic. I'm going to come on to particularly other industries or education, etc., because I know Elmarie's chomping at the bit to share some things that she's done as well. So I'll come back to that in a bit. Faizal, let me just come to you and ask you just to finish up on the section about East and West and different cultural experiences. Sir, anything else to add, please?
Yeah, so we know there are a couple of type of leadership available right now. We know that. So when I think about creative leadership, I always think that it's in between being a transformational leadership and also being a situational leadership. So because it's something that depends on individual. So when I was working in the oil and gas and managing multi-million dollars project and managing a lot of culture, I tried to use three of what I am good at. One is emotional intelligence, that's one, cross-cultural management, and being your authentic self. So when you have these three, it really brings out the creativity in you because if you have, let's say, a group of people coming from the Asia, you have to manage them differently. You have to think like them. But then when you try to manage people coming from the Europe side, then you have to be aware of which cities, which country they're coming from, because each of them has their own culture. So we have to be mindful of where they're coming from, their culture. And the best thing to do for us as the leadership is to use our emotional intelligence and our cross-cultural management. So then you can become a good leader who can be mindful of your team members. You will not cross the line, and you create a good culture within the team. And then you build a very strong team to drive, let's say, if you're executing a project. So regardless of the organizational structure, but if you're managing a team, you are the one who is responsible to set up your team and how you want the culture to be like.
Fantastic. I love the 3 points you put in there. And for me, the fourth point as well, which was do what you're good at, because I think there's a lot of where we follow, other people who are successful, and I think this has particularly happened to women, where they're trying to follow in the footsteps of other people and they try to become other people and forget who they are. So I really liked that, which which was such a nice soft hint right at the beginning, Faizal, which was fantastic. And the cross-cultural piece plays a lot in there. There's been some comments coming into the chat, particularly saying viva the comment about structures, because Dr. Ruby, we're going to have to talk to you and some others about this, but it's HR that puts a lot of the structures in place. So I guess there's a question there, but let's hold on to that for now. So if we've covered a bit of an angle, thank you to the three of you. If we've covered a bit of an angle about some stuff happening in international settings between East and West, etc., let me bring Elarie into this, particularly with you, Ruby, for now, and ask, because I know from your profiles that you ladies have been involved in other settings apart from business, education and the work with the UN, etc. So help us understand some models that you've seen that work really well, which maybe business should be thinking about adopting, especially some more inclusive structures, etc. So please, let me open to the two of you, and Elarie, please welcome into the conversation. We can't hear you, Elarie.
Sorry.
Got you.
I also worked a lot in the corporate world, and a recent experience that I've had was I've organized this international conference called Inspired or Your Future Ready, where we looked at the future of schools, future of work, future of skills, future of money, and met up with amazing ideas. And one idea I'd like to share is an idea shared by Bruno Chandran from France, and it's called role crafting. And it's an amazing way in which you as a leader can unlock the creativity in your staff. So people are given the opportunity to give input as to what they feel they can contribute, but are not given the space to contribute. And people within the organization also, evaluate each other, because sometimes other people see things in you that you yourself don't see. So as you mentioned earlier, everybody has a natural creativity, but sometimes those typical hierarchical structures don't work. So role crafting is something I would really, really recommend. And it's had a tremendous success in very large organizations.
Sorry,
I also
Elarie,
think that
just staying with role crafting, please, in 30 seconds, what is it for the uninitiated?
So
what is it about? How does it work?
Instead of having your traditional organizational structure that we all know, right? You work in this department and you appoint people according to prescriptive job descriptions and roles. People look at their own skills and talents that they have to bring in the organization, and they help craft their own role within the organization. And it's really, it sounds almost impossible, but they have software and they've got processes, and they have really changed very large international organizations, and it impacts on the bottom line. It impacts on people not wanting to leave their jobs, So it's just it's something I can really recommend people look into. But what I want to say about, and that is empowering people, giving them a voice. And it doesn't matter in which section you work, whether it's in education, whether it's in corporate. I think creativity needs to be done with intent. It doesn't happen just flow organically through an organization. It has to be driven from the top down as well. And creativity means creating an organization that is emotionally safe, that is safe where you feel safe to fail. Because every person who works in innovation will tell you the most important thing that drives creativity is failing successfully and failing without fear. So I think in schools and in organizations, that is something, and it sits with your empathy and your emotional intelligence and building that positive environment in your organization. But just to come back, it has to be done with intent. It has to be planned for. It doesn't happen. It's not going to just happen in the room with the bean bags. It's not just your creative department. It should be that the whole organization should have that sense of creative and innovation in their DNA. So that's just a view. I can say a lot about education, but I thought I'll share these thoughts.
Love that. Really, really love that. I love the intent driven. I love the role crafting piece, because I think one of the things that goes wrong, right, is that the structures come into play because somewhere along the line, when the numbers increase, fear comes in. And when fear comes in, then rules come in, right? And then when rules come in, people feel I've got to operate within that box. And then their ability that they might have around what happens everywhere else, you know, in society, in the richness of family models and, you know, other systems, all of that falls away. So absolutely love that.
And especially in the Asian countries, I mean, I've been working in Asia for the past 20 years.
Yeah.
There is, you know, in the schooling system, there's such a fear of failure. There's a right answer, a wrong answer. There's exam-driven, rote learning. And then you suddenly say to kids, oh, be creative and think. I mean, and all they know is, what if I'm wrong? You know, so it's something that also needs to be inculcated from when children are very young.
Absolutely, love it. So this is interesting because it reminds me of a project I did when I was at Motorola a few years back, where we tried to say, how do we get more women into engineering? And we said, oh, we must go to the university leading programs. And then we noticed there weren't enough of them coming into university. So then we said we must go to the undergrad programs, then try and get them in. And eventually we realized that we've got to go all the way back to the age of 12, 13, where they are becoming aware about the opportunities that are out there, and then choosing the right subjects and then moving from there. So it's very interesting how some of this, Elarie, can go all the way back to the early teenage years. It's fantastic.
I just want to say no. It's when the brain is most receptive is when kids are between 3 and 7, and when those neural pathways are formed. So we've got to go down even. I mean, why do you give boys Lego blocks and girls dolls? You know, it's really, you know, we just have those biases and that preconceptions that we just embed in our family life and school.
Yeah.
I think I'll just add on to that, Elarie, what you just mentioned about the Lego. You know, at higher education, what we are trying to do is I just gave them the box of Legos. You know, that's how I make them experiment. And some of the girls were like, oh my God, no, we can't do that. I said, it's a team activity, guys. You're going to score. You have time. I gave them set of instructions. This is what you're supposed to do. And they were like, no, Professor, we have never played with Lego. This is not my forte. And some of the boys were like, oh yes, you know, we are going to win. So I said, I'm going to mix the groups. There's no boys and versus girls. It's mixed group. You're all going to be together as a team and you have to show your creativity. So I gave them some set of instructions, and even the people who had never played Legos in their life, it was their first time. My God, they had some creativity flowing in the classroom in just 30 minutes, you know. First 30 minutes were the set of instructions they had to follow, and last 30 minutes was activity round. Sherwyn, I was surprised to see the results. You know, the people who were cribbing a lot in the beginning, they were the ones who got brownie points. They did such amazing task because, you know, when you give them the floor, you give them like, this is what you need to do. So they start feeling that, you know, as she said, you have to create a safe learning environment. You know, if you start doubting them, you know, we coming from Asian countries, it's always the pressure. You have to go above 90, you have to have an A, you know, but here in Europe, that's what I saw, and I was very, very impressed that there's no pressure, there's no stress. It's just environment. It's just the things that people need to do, and people started getting comfortable. They start feeling that, yes, I can do. So if you put them in that situation and use emotional connection, you know, which I practice practically all the time in my classroom with my own kids everywhere. So we see the difference. And the teachers who are just giving instructions, or people who are just saying, you need to do this, you know, without any empathy, the results show, you know, the output reflects clearly. So it's just like if you create that environment, if you give them the task, people will connect and the results will be plus.
Love it.
Fantastic.
Love it. I want to bring in the last two people, but before I do, just to your point, Elarie, I recently watched a movie on Netflix, which is the storytelling of the famous, she's late now, the Indian mathematician lady. I don't know if you know the woman I'm talking about. I'll try and find her, but the story on Netflix was told, and it's about some of the you know, and I remember, because she was such a strong character, I remember her being in Europe. And
It's Shakuntala Devi. Sherwyn, Shakuntala Devi. Shakuntala Devi.
That's yeah. Could you type it into the chat, please? That would be great. But I remember her saying to the guy, "Oh, you love me because you think I need you." And she said, "Go and find another project to work on." And I specifically remember that. So, Dr. Jasmine and Agita, we've got the two of you I'd like to bring to the chat. My original intention, Jasmine, was to bring in because I know that you have this experience in Microsoft and you see a lot of things happening, particularly from a corporate perspective, and also Agita, to bring you in to talk about what you see happening that has inspired you.
Hi everyone, so sorry I'm intruding for a minute. Sherwyn, can you check your connection for one second? Just check your connection. Until then we can go on and talk about the same topic, because it's not coming through whatever you are saying. They don't hear you. Try to check your connections. Yeah, because if I continue, then the content will be not valuable because they cannot connect with you. Thank you very much.
Now?
No, it's still bad. Thank you. Sorry for the audience. It can happen. We are in a new world when we are all digital. So these things happen. And we will get back to this amazing conversation with the ladies. I hope Sherwyn can fix the connection soon. Until then, if you can just drop into this conversation something from your side, what Sherwyn was saying, just jump in until Sherwyn, maybe you can log out and log in again. That will help. And you can just talk about the same thing what Sherwyn was starting.
Is that still not working?
No, still not. So we will talk a little bit, just log in, log out, and then we continue. Thank you, ladies. So Ruby, can you go on from the point where Sherwyn left it off? Thank you very much.
I think it was Jasmine. Right. I think it was Jasmine.
It was she was supposed to start. I just talked about
Jasmine. Okay, so right, let's go for Jasmine. Thank you. I'm disappearing again.
Okay.
Thank you. I think the way I would frame it from a corporate perspective is I want to anchor on the word empowering. And if we look at empowering, and I also want to build upon what Elarie said, that to empower means to also allow people to fail fast. And to fail fast is important in a corporate environment where wins are the only thing that's always celebrated. And to fail means you will not get promoted, and you will not share, and you won't have an opportunity to discuss about it. And to empower someone to fail fast, and not to point finger is important in the leadership environment. And I think that is something that we do in a very prescribed and a very intentional way. So growth mindset versus fixed mindset, and then driving that conversation in allowing you to fail. And failing successfully is an environment that is built upon trust. So not only we are looking at an opportunity to fail, learn, and recover, but also you are allowing a person to be creative and take calculated risks. And the other point I would like to talk about is also about building trust. All of this will not happen if you are not in a trusted environment. Having that trust is critical. And trust does not come by saying, yes, ma'am, 3 bag full, ma'am. Trust is built in being able to communicate, to give feedback. We now work in an environment, multi-generational environment, and in allowing a person who's a new entry into the organization to actually give their perspective, and to be conscious in our diverse hiring, and making sure that we hear everyone's opinion is so critical. And we all come with our biases, and we all have this built-in prejudice. And creative leadership allows you empower. This empowerment means you put yourself in that person's position and being empathetic. And it also means that reverse mentoring becomes very critical, where senior leaders are mentored by those who come in. So to me, I look at it in three ways. Empowering means allowing people to fail fast, build a trusted environment, and have a growth mindset that it is not hierarchical. Good ideas do not come from the top. It can come from anyone, and anyone is allowed to build. And that is allowing for creativity to flourish and to grow the potential of the organization. It has to be a culture embedded in the mission of the company. Thank you.
Wow, fantastic. Am I better to hear now? Thank you very much.
Yes,
thank you, Jasmine. Really, really lovely, and some brilliant points there. Agita, over to you. You've got carte blanche. You've got comments available on anything anybody has said so far.
Thank you, Sherwyn, and it's amazing to hear from a different perspective and different backgrounds as well. I think before I'm going to share about my opinion about the creative leaderships, I would like to touch upon the facts that we're currently facing right now. A lockdown, it's obviously increasing the gender gap between women and men. In the same time, women is actually getting more likely to be furloughed. So if we see and hear in the sense of leadership, I think it is the creativity leadership and catching the opportunity for every single person, because we know this COVID-19 is completely changing the way how we live, how we work, and obviously how the business basically working. So getting to the level of the leadership, I think a couple of speakers already mentioned about technology, a couple of speakers already speaking about empowerment. I would like to focus completely to the aspect of opportunity. And when it comes to opportunity, this is not just simply focusing in one or private sector or one in education. In my opinion, this is a multi-stakeholder partnership. We won't be able to create such an opportunity without a help from the government, private sector, organizations, and the educations to work together. Especially, we now still waiting for the whole 99 years old to be able to have a gender equality when it comes to workplace. So opportunity for women, especially, it's equally really, really important. And we're not only speaking about equality in here, but also equity. And power itself, it is not something can be taken away the moment when a woman becomes a leader. There is a recent research basically based on the populations in Sweden, the United Kingdom, and Japan. It says that actually sexual harassment in the workplace it's more happening to women who has the leadership, who are in the higher position compared to the lower position. So I think opportunity creates a better chance for women to be in a leadership, to be as a leader. In the same time, being a leader as well, we need such a support from the government and multi-supporter support in order for us to create a better gender equity and equality in the leadership. I think that's my takeaway. So
love it. Thank you, Agita. Some really interesting perspective on how you've seen things even fail, because they've not been as creative, and some guidance there. Fantastic. So a lot of points there. If we had more time, it would be worth just summing them up. I know this will be available on replay so that people can rewatch it, but really a lot of different perspective there. And being conscious of the time, I guess I want to take some of this forward a little bit. The word leadership in the title can be a little bit misgiving because it makes us think, and very often we've seen this with our peers, perhaps in organizations. It makes us think that it's the leaders who have to do something. I'd be really interested in talking about, if we think about what's happening in the world right now, there's a shift of power. millennials and younger people they've seen Gen X fail. They've seen people like myself. My daughter's seen me work hard and have very little to show for it. And she says, Dad, I'm not doing that. So we've got all of this new stuff coming into the world, right? We've got a lot of a personal power that just seems available to people through social media and through the concepts and the role models that people are seeing happening. So imagining that we have audience on the session that aren't necessarily formal leaders in organizations, I'm going to open this up to the panel. I'm not going to go to anyone in particular, but let's just imagine for the next 10 minutes, we can talk a bit about how people who aren't official leaders can use some best practice to bring out their own creativity, to bring out ways of empowering others around them. And let's try and keep it in the business setting, because there are other sessions that will look at it in other settings on the agenda over the summit. So in business, I'm not a leader of others. I'm a self-leader. And I want to press reset on how I operate if I'm an older person, or I want to find a new paradigm as a younger person coming into the world of work. Help me with the do's and the don'ts, please, wise people.
I think I can use a 3E approach, which is educate. Whatever things you are doing in the new system or whatever you want to get in the corporate, you first need to educate, that is giving relevant information, which is not done in most of the corporates at the right time. So first is educate, that is you have to give complete information, be in line with what is happening top down, bottom up and horizontal level. And second is empathize with the people, empathize with your co-workers, not give them deadlines or objectives on things which are not achievable. Be realistic in giving or setting standards or setting deadlines. And the third one is empower. So if we use these 3E approach, I think working or, creativity will just flow, because people will be in a safer environment. And with the 3E approach of educating, giving information, then empathizing, and constantly making sure that you are empowering, delegating the right person at the right time, it will get the magic done.
Love it. Thank you.
I'd like to jump in. So it's interesting, Sherwyn, that you asked about this word leadership, right? Because we sort of skirted the word and we kind of went into creative. And so I get asked the question quite often when I'm speaking at conferences or I'm doing training. People ask me, can anyone be a leader? And I tend to be brutally honest and say, no, I don't believe anyone can be a leader. And I'll tell you why. Because I just think some people are just not designed to be leaders, and it's okay. You don't have to have a title or a job role. My issue really is that when I look at people, I think even people who have leadership roles do not know how to lead themselves. So when I look at it from a communication perspective, because I tend to look at everything from a communication perspective, because leadership is communication. That is the basis of all leadership efforts that you do. So if you don't have self-leadership, why are people in a hurry to lead others? Because I think somebody on the panel said, yes, we all have our own biases and prejudices. And a lot of people won't even admit they have those biases and prejudices, because the way we lead, it starts with your internal conversation, right? It's a mental dialogue that's going on about, do you like this person? Do you not like that person? What do you think the work environment is like? What's the culture like? What's this client like? It's all those conversations that are going on in our head, which are filtered through our biases and our prejudices. So I always come back to, instead of trying to lead everybody else, lead by example. And that's much, much harder. Because when you look at yourself and you think, I have a duty of care for the people under my care. So when I was in a leadership position, those were some hard truths that I had to do a lot of self-reflection about, to think, okay, if I'm going to be an example to the team, sure, I have my biases, I have my prejudices, I have bad days. And so I had to learn to be honest with the team that, I didn't have all the answers, that I had good days and I had bad days. But a lot of that work about leadership, 80% of my work on leadership was on myself. Because if I could figure myself out in terms of what was my communication style, then what is my leadership style? Where do I struggle with how I lead and how I motivate and how I get the best out of my people? It's a combination of many, many factors, because a lot of people come to work, especially when they are younger, they are looking for direction. They are looking for someone to guide them, right, in their 20s and 30s. And I found in my own experience, sorry, I'm being a bit of a devil's advocate here. In my experience, especially in my working life, a lot of people have no business being in leadership positions. They're just really bad leaders. They have no business, because a lot of people currently are being promoted based on their job competency, not on their people skills or their leadership or their values or their integrity or their transparency. People are promoted because they're good at their job. I was promoted initially because I was good at my job, right? So even how people are promoted needs a complete review, because somebody can be good at their job and have no business leading anyone else.
I feel every single word, Faridah. I love it. The main thing I'm going to take away is this: lead yourself first, right? If that's okay, if I just go with lead yourself first. Faizal, I see you on the screen next, so I'm going to come to you because we are in our closing right now, because I've been given a time flag. So Faizal, give me your nugget, please. What is your nugget on how people can do this?
I always want to share this. For example, take one good example, the late President Nelson Mandela. So he's a great example of a leader who led from the back when he was a president. So he gave his, he direct people to take their own responsibility, and he guide them so that they can be their own leader. And he doesn't portray himself as that, hey, I'm the president, so you must listen to me. No, he doesn't. He just gave the direction to all the people to take the necessary, because he know that when he was a president, he's at the age of, maybe he doesn't know when he will last long in his president duration. So what I'm trying to get at in is that sometimes you don't need the title of a leader, like Faridah mentioned. You just need to lead by yourself and show people that you can lead. You don't need the title of the leader, but you delegate the job properly. You articulate what you need from them properly, and then you guide them to the direction. If they reach to the direction that they need, you share their happiness, share their achievement. So that's an example of a good leader, in my opinion, because sometimes, like Faridah mentioned, to a leader, actually they doesn't know how to lead at the same time, but being a silent leader is better than being
fantastic.
A
I love it. So there's something
front.
about the service element. That's what I'm picking up from the way you talk about Nelson. Excellent. Love it, Faizal. Agita, I see you next on my screen. Please, a gem to part with, please. That would be great.
Thanks, Sherwyn. For me, I think it's very simple. Basically, being a leader, it is not just make sure that the work is basically done perfectly, because it's actually a job for a manager. You have to also understand that the people who work with you is also good, and then doing it right as well. So I think it's really important to make sure that the work, the vision, it's done, and at the same time, people who work with you is also feeling right about you between the umbrella of your leadership. But again, as in a business, I think business scope, especially if everyone out there is working as a women entrepreneurs, it's being a leader is obviously a lot of things to do. And if there is someone who says there's always a need to find a balance between when you are having your business, I don't think it's really actually applicable. I don't see that when you are leading your own business, we can find a balance. For me, balance, it needs to be you find your own internal balance, because there is no such a thing as balancing between our life with business. Business is like you 24 hours with your business, because it's your baby. So the moment when you have to be fully integrated yourself with your business, I think the most important, you have to have self-regulation. You create your own balance, because almost everyone have a different way. If you spend 1 hour with your kids, you think it is fine for you, and you spend the rest of the day focus on your business and dealing with the with your partners. If you find it's okay, it's your perfect balance, but it's not applicable to anyone else. So I think self-regulations of finding your internal balance is really important as leaders at the same time.
Fantastic. I love that. And other people have spoken about that, but the way you speak about it, Agita, I'm seeing it in life rather than just in business, you know, in your whole life, and especially between your life and other things you do. Love that. 2 more people to go before Andrea says our time is over. Jasmine, I see you next, please. A nugget from you to close with would be lovely.
Thank you, Sherwyn. So people equate power with leadership. And that seemed to be a common understanding that leadership comes with power. But I would like to leave this conversation today with power is not in the position, power in the knowledge, power in what you do, and power in your depth. And even in empowering. And therefore, we need to demystify and equate power and leadership. And if there's people out there thinking, I need to be in the position of power and leadership to make a difference, this is one learning I want to leave you all with. Power leadership is not how you influence or make a difference. You can make a difference as long as you have that heart to go out and make a difference. Thank you.
Wow. I think that's the first time I'm hearing the word heart. I was pleased that we've got the word heart in. And so what I'm taking is do it from your position. Wherever you stand, however many people you have behind you, do it from where you are. Love it. Love it. Elarie. We can't hear you.
I thought I unmuted it. Sorry. I will leave it with a very well-known saying, and it's assigned to Gandhi, but you know, people have said, yeah, it's not his exact words, but I love what it says, and that is, be the change. You know, be the change you want to see in the world, and become that person. As you also mentioned, live through your values. Be very clear in what you want to, not the goals, not the things you want to get through your goals, but who are you constantly moving towards becoming? Who's that person you want to be? And through that, your leadership, people will naturally be attracted to you, right? So I think it's being congruent between who you as a person are and how you behave and how you engage with the people around you, and never stop learning. A leader should be the lead learner in the organization, because we can always grow. And the last thing is that I think a big dilemma leaders are facing now is in this new virtual world. How do I lead people when I'm not with them? How do I approach leadership when we are all working remotely? And I think that is something that's also really worth discussing. It's not something we had a chance to do, but you know, very interesting dilemmas around empowerment, around creativity, and around feeling that you can still lead when you're not there. Thank you very much.
Wow, really love it. Thank you, Elarie. And yes, you're quite right. We could have gone there. We just didn't get the chance, you know. So, Andrea, I see you have reappeared. So I take it that...
Time is up. Time's up, guys. I'm reminding you, yes.
As much as possible.
We are going to the secret rooms now, and we will talk about cultural differences and ageism. So hope you can join us. You can feel free to join in. It's a new platform that we are trying out because Hameed is sponsoring us, and they created a social lounge, and you can take tables. And I see GD already talking to Joy, I think, at the table. So enter to this link I sent you via WhatsApp, and you can try it out. And there will be people who we need to support, because this is about supporting all the people who registered into this room. If you would like to still join in from the audience, just feel free to join. It's on the website. You can scroll down and choose the secret room for today, 8 p.m. Join now, and then you will get the instructions and see you in this room. And at 11 p.m. we will have our networking sessions, same room, but different link. And you just click on the event itself join now, and it will take you anywhere, and we will meet at the table and talk about everything. Even for the experts, I think it will be great to spend a little bit more time together, because I think it's bonding time for us, for the 108 of us here, and I'm really happy to have you here. I think everyone was enjoying the session. I saw very good comments here. They say you are already empowering others, and it's like really excellent methods of teaching from Doreen. Do what you are good at from Doreen also. Margaret is here also. My son is a champion on Lego making models of cars, so it's awesome. Watching from Malaysia, Sirajun. And we have also Patty here. I hope we start to stop asking permission and approval to succeed, which is also a very nice message here. And Mala is also here. Mala is coming from MyTech. She's the marketing director, and they are our strategic partners. So she's here. Being able to lead naturally does not mean that the leader knows what they are doing. In some cases, you can see a person who is naturally surrounded by others, who do what they do with passion and purpose. They empower people and inspire them, whether it's intentional or not. So this is a very nice message. Thank you, Mala. It's very deep. And Charu is here also from Women Lines. Lead yourself first. So empowering. Well said, Faridah. So a lot of messages. We had around 20 people joining in. And they say it's a great session. Good job, guys. Thank you very much. See you later. And let's go further the summit. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone. Bye. Thank you, Sherwyn, for leading the session.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
It began with a bold vision to build KL Metropolis, a development that would establish a new international trade and exhibition district in Malaysia, built in partnership with the government by Naza Group's property arm, Naza TTDI. The crown jewel of this grand vision is the Malaysia International Trade and Exhibition Centre, the preferred international destination for exhibitions and events. Like the fine gold and silver threads of the Songket weave that inspired its facade design, MyTech is the embodiment of refined craftsmanship, creativity and precision. As Malaysia's largest exhibition centre, MyTech's functional spaces are unprecedented. Primed for exceptional displays, surrounded by state-of-the-art facilities and amenities. This iconic structure affirms a commitment to innovative excellence. It is a showpiece of engineering ingenuity. An enduring icon built for a new Malaysia